So if you watched my live chat last week, then you saw that we talked about adverse childhood experiences. And hopefully, if you are a person who experienced adverse childhood experiences or childhood trauma, then hopefully you took your ACE quiz. So ACE quizzes or adverse childhood experience quiz can be found on many sites. Just Google it. It's on NPR. It's on a bunch of different sites. And just a quick recap, this has been studied extensively for the last couple of decades because they found that children who grow up in trauma with certain adverse childhood experiences get much sicker and they tend to die much earlier on average. So they don't have as long of a lifespan as people who grow up in stable environments, right? Children who grow up in stable environments. So hopefully you took your quiz. And I'm not asking you to take this quiz because I want you to wear your past trauma like a badge or because I want you to stay stuck in a victim mode. In fact, quite the contrary, right? Just because you were victimized, and I know this is delicate, but just because you were victimized in the past does not mean you need to remain a victim. I don't think of myself as a victim at all just because I was victimized in the past. In fact, I refuse to give that much power to anyone who hurt me in the past. So be clear. The reason I want you to take that quiz is because it is important to understand what you've been through in the past because it's a map to where you're going in the future, right? So I think of it as a map. So your history doesn't have to be your destiny. If we know that adverse childhood experiences and growing up in trauma can lead to you being sicker or dying earlier, then we want that map because now we know what to change, right? So don't be a victim, be a victor. Exactly. So let's talk really quickly about which illnesses, adverse childhood experiences and growing up in trauma can actually affect. So this is the list. It's heart disease, stroke, cancer, COPD, which is a lung disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's because of cognitive problems, and suicide, which is obviously connected to depression and anxiety, and hopelessness. So that's the basic list. What they didn't put on there is that's only the physical list. They're obviously not including things that are more social and emotional, like you're more likely to be sex trafficked or work in the sex trade, not finish high school, have trouble staying employed, getting teen pregnancy, incarceration, like all of those are other issues, right? More social issues. So as I said in the last episode, this is not a me problem. This is a we problem. Because you can imagine heart disease, stroke, cancer, COPDs, diabetes, Alzheimer's, suicide. These are preventable things. And this is costing society an enormous amount. And oh, by the way, adverse childhood experiences are not uncommon. They're actually common. Okay, but that doesn't mean that we want that to continue. This means we need to do better with education. It means we need to do better at preventing this. So people with a score, I read the list of what those adverse childhood experiences were last week. If you didn't get a chance, it's on my Instagram page. You can watch that. Okay, so it's scored from 0 to 10. And it's things like physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, if your parent was incarcerated, if your parents were divorced. There's a whole list of things that are on there. And what it didn't include was things like bullying, discrimination. And it also doesn't include things like if you were abused by someone outside of your family. So there are some things not on there that definitely affect you. But this was just created for people like in their homes before the age of 18. So those things are still important. So if you have a score of 4 or more, you are more likely to have 7 of the 10 most common preventable illnesses that I just read, right? If you have 6 or more, if your score is 6 or higher, you are more at risk of dying 20 years earlier. That was the average. That's what the studies have shown. So my score is 8. My nieces are a 9. So, and I was sick all the time. My nieces were sick all the time when they came here. I mentioned that in the last video. So I was one of those kids that was a frequent flyer. I was always on antibiotics. I was always on medications, had my first surgery when I was 9, have had 10 medical surgeries, cancer repeatedly. I was always sick. So I never understood why. And then when I got into this, I started to understand why. And then I wanted to know, well, what can I do about it? Which is why I got so into studying health and wrote the Omni Diet and wrote the Brain Warriors Way, and why I exercise all the time, because I'm just not okay being a victim and I'm not okay being stuck where I'm at because someone else put me here, if that makes sense. So just because someone else decided that my life should, look a certain way when I was a child does not mean I'm okay with that. So hopefully you aren't either. And so that's why I want you to take that quiz. I want you to know what it is that you are up against so that you know what you need to train for, right? So you can't show up on fight day. I practice martial arts, and you can't show up on fight day and expect to win. You got to train every day. But in order to do that, you got to have a plan. And so that's where we're at. So this is important to assess your brain. So to get started, I want you to assess. So you first, you know what your childhood experiences were. You obviously need to know what happened and be aware of it, and then know what the problem is with that you are at risk for some of these things. Ask yourself, what have you suffered from? Then do an assessment. Do an assessment of your brain and body. Like, what's going on with me? What have I suffered from? Really pay attention. Go get a full physical of your brain and body, just so that you know, right? And then know why. Why do you want to be better? You got to have a strong why, or you will never do the what. So for me, it was very clear. I didn't really get serious about this until I had a little girl. And then I knew, like, I did not want to pass my stuff, my crap, onto my daughter. So that was very clear. That was my motivation. I was sort of tired of being sick and tired, but I also did not want to pass this on. So I did EMDR. I did like all kinds. EMDR is a specific type of therapy for trauma. I did NLP. I did so many things. I also really worked on my physical health, exercise, nutrition. I love hypnosis, meditation, prayer. Spiritual people purposeful people live 11 years longer on average. So all of these things are important, but you got to do the assessment and know your why before you can actually do your what. You'll never do the what otherwise. And create a health plan. And that's sort of what I'm talking about here. And if you don't know how to create a health plan, that's something we can help you with. We have all kinds of stuff on, if you go to tanaamen.com, there's a lot of free resources. We also have courses. My husband and I did a 6-month course called the Brain Warriors Way, where we held your hand for 6 months. There's a happiness course. There's all sorts of resources out there, but I have a lot of free resources on my website as well, just to help you get started. Something as simple as the one-page miracle. Puts everything on one page. It's what you want for your life. And then put it on your mirror so you can see, this is what I want for my life. This is what I want for my physical health. This is what I want for my mental health. This is what I want for my relationships, my finances. So you put that on one page and put it on your mirror. We actually have that template for the one-page miracle. You'll find it on my website, tanaamen.com. So really important that you do all of these things in order to move on to the next level. So in the next episode, what I want to talk about is PTSD, or post-traumatic stress, right, versus PTG, post-traumatic growth. Why do some people get an attitude like, I'm not going to be a victim no matter what, I'm going to fight, like I'm a fighter? And why do some people in your family, you know who they are, just stay stuck in victim mode? It's not like they don't have a reason or an excuse. We all could say we have an excuse, but we choose not to take it. We choose not to use that excuse because we want to take responsibility. Why do some people want to choose that route and other people just can't? They just seem like they can't, and they're just stuck in that post-traumatic stress. They're stuck in victim mode. So we're going to talk more about that in the next episode, and why adverse childhood experiences become generational. Why do you pass them on? So if you aren't aware of why this is going on, you are more likely to pass them on, even though you don't want to, and even though you're not aware you're doing it. So that's what's really important for me. The big takeaway for me and the big aha was that I did not want to pass this on to my daughter. So stay tuned. I'm doing a series on adverse childhood experiences because I think it's so important. It's been studied actually, I think, since the 80s. And then Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris did a big breakthrough on this, and it's been pretty groundbreaking. So I'm going to continue to do this. Someone's asking about where the link is for the test. Please Google ACE quiz, ACE quiz. So because there are so many places you can take this quiz, because this is a big deal in the health community, especially in pediatrics, it's a big deal. So all you have to do is Google ACE quiz. It's going to pop up all over the place, and then you can take it. Let's see. Don't be a victim, be a victor. I love that. I'm going to lose your questions and your comments as soon as I get out of here. I'm going to post this video, but if I lose your questions and your comments, please go to my Instagram page and post them so that I can actually answer them. I love getting your questions and comments, and I would like to answer them, so I don't want to miss them. All right, I am going to continue this next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.